People that know me most of would say, or my partner would say that, you know, I'm sort of, I don't know whether it's not temperamental, but I get bored really easy. It's a bit like what I sort of said at that uni essay thing on the Tuesday. Sometimes people sort of say to me, you know, certain things, oh, you should do more of this, you know, you should focus on this, yeah. And I don't really sort of like doing that. I mean, that doesn't mean I won't go back to things, but the art world's sort of full of that sort of, you know, people get a certain style, leitmotif, whatever you want to call it, and they keep on hammering the same thing. And that doesn't mean that it's good or bad, it just means that, I'm not really sort of that into that, doing that, but I can see why people do it, because people like sort of familiarity with what they sort of do. That I do actually follow through with themes and a style, but it's not, well, I think it's actually a really highly individualistic style, and that's sort of what I actually concentrate on. I do find myself, you know, there's doors and walls that I come up over the last 30 odd years in the art world where I can recognise why people often reproduce, you know, 1,000 or 101 variations of the same particular types of image or imagery, because if you actually don't do that, people don't get familiar with the work to the extent where they feel comfortable about it. And a lot of art is about feeling comfortable about the work. Now, I don't mean it can be comfortable in as it's nice, or it can be comfortable in it may not be nice, but I know what it is, sort of thing, you know. So I'm not making any comments on any other arts practitioners or practices. I'm just sort of, over many years, I think that those sort of, you know, sort of aspects of art are how I actually, you know, I think I'm calling it fairly correctly, and the fact that people like to see something that's sort of comfortable, like to be able to interpret it. I grew up in the 50s, and my mum was black, easily recognisable as an Aboriginal person. I could have been nondescript to many people, particularly in the 50s, when people had really stereotypical views of blackfellas and Aboriginal people in general, which, even if there's still a lot of discrimination nowadays, it has changed a lot over the years. And also about Aboriginal people having pride in who they are, and, you know, and their pride in their culture and all that sort of thing. So I guess why I'm sort of just briefly rehashing that with you, Leah, you know, and for the benefit of the other people, but they may have their own insights in that anyway, but is because I have always been sort of, in some way, sort of put in this sort of weird or too hard basket. And because I was really close to my mum, I used to get a lot of abuse, insults, racist remarks and discrimination that were actually aimed at her. You know, your mum's a rah, 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 and all this sort of thing in the schoolyard and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I really sort of couldn't understand any of that when I was a kid. You know, I don't know whether you're familiar with Kathleen Pachari's artwork, you most probably are, and she does all of this sort of like that little, well, the black on the white or the white on the black or whatever, and in some ways this is like a really sort of fine point reminiscent of some of her work in that, but you know, it's different. And so I really got into this as a technique, and I really enjoyed what I finally finished up with here, and as a couple of people come up to me afterwards and sort of said, you know, I really like that piece and I like that bit there, and, you know, a particular lady that's an artist herself and asked me about it, she said, oh, so that's how you did it, and said, I thought that was, you know, sort of really nice, so from now on I would like to actually utilise that, and I've got these ideas of not necessarily ants, but actually sort of another special bird, the ibis, or egrets and things like that, where they might be sort of sitting on a background here, and these sculpted aluminium pieces or whatever are sort of, you know, standing up, or as you see them, you know, pecking and dabbling with their bills in the water or whatever. And in the major part, which would be all this sort of black part, I'll be doing something like if I'm not pushing up daisies, you know, because I'll sit around for 6 or 12 months before I'm lazy. I'm really lazy here. I'll sit around and do all these other things that I love doing before I then suddenly become manic about art again. And that's my life, brother. I'm sorry, but that's my life. Yeah, so I want to use that technique because I think there's a lot of potential for it, and that's looking, you know, like a bit of an insight into how I sort of think into things and how I like to explore things, and why I sort of said techniques and what you can maybe do with them, and lots of times just sheer accidental discoveries that I've come across.